Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I am Shanchoy Tamanna, working as Assistant Professor and Head in the Department of English, Godot College, which is affiliated to Vidyasagar University. Today my topic for discussion is Waiting for Godot as an absurd play, a special reference to the Pozzo lucky relationship. Since all the classes have been suspended due to the severe spread of coronavirus worldwide, which has become a pandemic, the formal education system is challenging a severe threat. It's facing massive challenges because classes are closed since 16th of March and we do not know, neither the teachers, nor the students, nor the administration, nobody knows when the classes will be reopened, and hopefully soon, but still teachers are eagerly waiting to get into the classes once again, and students are very much worried how they would finish up the burden of the syllabus, which is very huge because syllabus has been changed this year only, and students are requesting me again and again. So I finally decided that why not to bring the classes virtual? Why not to extend the classrooms virtually? So, on demand of the students, today I have decided to make a brief discussion on a topic which is Waiting for Godot, a play written by Beckett, which has been incorporated in the syllabus of Vidyasagar University 4th semester English Honours. Waiting for Godot. Waiting for Godot is a popular play written by Beckett, which falls on the category of theatre of absurd. The theatre of absurd, or the absurd drama, was a kind of drama that was made popular in the 1950s and 1960s European and American dramatists, especially after the publication of Martin Eslin's book, The Theatre of Absurd, which was published in 1961. It is a movement. The absurdism or the absurd drama is a movement made up by which was popularized by Albert Camus' assessment in his essay The Myth of Sisyphus, which was written a little earlier in 1942. He expresses the view in his essay The Myth of Sisyphus. He expresses the view that human situation is essentially absurd, devoid of purpose. Human situation is essentially absurd, devoid of purpose. Our dramatist Beckett establishes the fact in the play, the theatre of the Waiting for Godot, that life is essentially meaningless. Whatever we do ultimately becomes nothing. So, among the popular dramatists of this genre are Beckett, Eugenie Ionesco, Arthur Adamov, Edward Albee, Harold Pinter, J. Jennett, Tom Stoppard, etc. The basic themes of this kind of drama are: it represents a world which has no meaning. It represents the individuals who are isolated, though they are dwelling among several people, but they still feel isolated. And the dramatist also establishes the theme, writes the drama on the basis of the theme that life is essentially meaningless, hence miserable. Life is meaningless and hence miserable. There is no hope because of this inevitable futility of man's effort. Inevitable futility. Man is going to fail. So why to work? That's the theme. Because it is as if it is predestined that you are going to fail. The final situation of this kind of drama creates a kind of comic effect, and as it represents some characters who are out of the way. These kind of plays are called anti-character and anti-play, as it has only few characters, only few acts, and it doesn't follow any particular sequence of dialogues, and it uses a formless language to represent the meaningless void of experience of life. Samuel Beckett is one of the pioneering writers of this genre. He is an Irish dramatist who had won Nobel Prize for this drama, Waiting for Godot. He has written many other plays like Endgame, Happy Days, All That Falls, Come and Go, etc. But this was the prominent one. Now I have prepared some slides just to make you clear that Waiting for Godot is a play written by Samuel Beckett. In the second slide I prepared that Waiting for Godot, Godot will be pronounced as Godot or God. He is a diminutive. It is believed that Godot is a diminutive form of the word God. The full title of the play, it was originally, as I had told earlier, the original title of the play is An Attendant Godot, In Attendant Godot, the French title, which was written in 1948 and published in 1952 in French. And it was translated into English and given a subtitle, A Tragicomedy. This is a tragicomedy in 2 acts. Okay, so the full title of the English version is Waiting for Godot, a tragicomedy in 2 acts. It was first staged in Left Bank Theatre of Babylon and in 1953 the French version, and then the English version in 1955 in British Royal National Theatre. Okay. Characters. Now I'm coming to the characters. In the play there are 5 characters basically. The 5 main characters. As I said, the theatre of absurd plays have only few characters, and there are characters like Vladimir, Estragon. They are major characters of the play. Then there is Lucky and Pozzo, and there is a boy, and the 6th character is not mentioned here. He is the chief character though, but who never appears, and he is Godot or God or so many things. Let's find out what. Characters, I have given a bit description about the characters again. Vladimir, one of the 2 main characters of the play. Estragon calls him Didi, and Estragon is known as Gogo. Pozzo will represent here the role of a master, and Lucky is Pozzo's slave, and there is a messenger boy who will appear twice in the play and who will come to give Vladimir and Estragon a message that whether Godot is coming or not, and definitely the answer will be no. The play starts, the play has only 2 acts. As I said, it violates the Aristotelian concept of a proper plot. Aristotle says that a plot must have at least 3 parts, the beginning, middle and the end. But these plays have no beginning properly, no proper middle, no proper end. The play doesn't end, the play doesn't start. It ends where it had started, so we do not understand whether the play has ended or not. It has 2 acts. In the act 1, we see the setting of the play. It is a country road, a tree, evening time, and Estragon, sitting on a low mound, is trying to take off his boot. He pulls at it with both hands, painting. He gives up, exhausted, rests, tries again, as before. Enter Vladimir. So we see that at the beginning of the drama, at the very opening scene of the drama, 2 tramps, Estragon and Vladimir, the 2 protagonists of the play, are waiting on a country road, by the side of a country road under a tree. There is a low mound, a little hipped up place, and Estragon is sitting there and trying to take off or pull his book out of his leg. He tries and tries, becomes exhausted, and he takes some rest and then tries again. And finally, he could not open it up. Vladimir enters at that point, and the first sentence that Estragon says is nothing to be done. Something has happened to his leg and he's saying nothing to be done. So, let's see. Can anything be done? By the end? However, he succeeds to to pull off his boot after several efforts, and in this way they are also doing they do several other things to pass the time, but in the meantime they say, Estragon says, let's go let's go, let's leave what we are doing here, let's go. Vladimir says, we cannot. Estragon says, why not, Vladimir? We're waiting for Godot. Estragon says, we cannot wait, we have to go, because we are waiting for Godot, and Vladimir reminds Estragon that we cannot go. Vladimir, Estragon are waiting for some unseen Godot, and who represents the purpose of their waiting. And Pozzo and Lucky, Pozzo is the master, Lucky's slave, comes to entertain them. The central question, the main question of their waiting that arises out of their waiting is, will Godot come? Godot will come or not? So Estragon and Vladimir are alone in the beginning of the play. Estragon and Vladimir are alone in the end of the play. Finally, they gives up the play. They do not give up, though we do not know whether they give up or not, but they say that nothing happens, nobody comes, nobody goes, it's awful. Godot has several meanings, several symbolic meaning in the play. Godot represents God, Godot represents our love, Godot represents happiness, Godot represents hope, Godot is a benefactor, Godot is a prophet, Godot represents the chief thing, the salvation or redemption that we all are waiting for. So these are the several probable meanings of Godot. The function of Godot in the play is that he stands for what keeps us chained to and in existence. So he represents the basic purpose of our being existing in this universe. He is the unknowable. Godot is, nobody knows who Godot is. He is unknowable, and he is everything. He is everything that we long for. He is every dream. He is every desire. He is every hope. He is every object that we wait for in our life. So Vladimir and Estragon, or Pozzo and Lucky, throughout the play represent the universal man, the desire of every man. They are every man, and they are representing us. While understanding waiting for Godot, we must analyze the related philosophical strands like the theatre of absurd in details or absurd drama and the dramatist. The philosophy of existentialism. Existentialism is the theory of being, or why we exist, how should we continue existing. And the myth of Sisyphus, which I told in the beginning of the discussion, that the theatre established that this kind of drama was popularized after this essay of Cameo, the myth of Sisyphus. And let's come to the point. What is the symbolic significance of Pezzulo-Lucky relationship in the play? The play is basically, Waiting for Godot is basically an absurd play. As I have told, I've got few points, like the play has only few characters, the dialogues are just meaningless, and there is no beginning, there is no end. The characters are ignorant, important, they're waiting for some Godot who even doesn't appear on the stage, and they have no timetable, they do not know the date, they do not know the date, they do not know the time, they do not know whether Godot will come, or they do not know if Godot comes, what will they do. They do not know if Godot doesn't come, what will they do, and they do not know anything, but still, the only thing they know is that they have to wait, and what they are waiting for Godot. What is Godot? Even they do not know. Godot has many resemblance, so it is basically an absurd play. So next, coming to the second part of my discussion, Pozzo-Lucky relationship. Symbolic significance of Pozzo-Lucky relationship. So, few questions I'm going to discuss throughout it. Does Lucky want to be free? Does Lucky, the slave of Pozzo, want to be free? Is it slavery if one chooses to be a slave? Is it slavery if one chooses to be a slave, or master-slave relationship, how it should be or how it has been represented in the play? Pozzo, a wealthy businessman, owner of Lucky, egoist, cruel, and dominant as a person. Lucky, in the other way, He is the slave, as I said. He is a slave of Pozzo, who is very weak, who is timid, slave to the will of Pozzo. A rope surrounds Lucky's neck at the opening when, as arrival, in the scene where Lucky and Pozzo arrives, we will see that Lucky and Pozzo are tied. Lucky is tied to a neck, by a rope on his neck, and Pozzo is pulling him, and Lucky is also carrying the bags and baggages of Pozzo. Here, see the image. This is the image, okay? And so, therefore, he is a wealthy businessman, owner of Lucky, egoist, cruel, and dominant. As a person, Lucky, weak and timid, slave to the will of Pozzo. A rope surrounds Lucky's neck. Okay. In the next part, we'll see that their relationship, Lucky and Pozzo's relationship, can be interpreted they're not just master and the slave. There are many interpretations, several interpretations of these relationships around the wave, and I have interpreted it in the following way. Lucky and Pozzo relationship and its significance have been various interpretations have been offered by critics. The relationship is, on the surface, a fairly cut and dry master-slave relationship. It is more like a master-slave relationship. Lucky is treated unforgivingly by Pozzo, often depicted as an old man. Lucky is forced to carry Pozzo's baggages, and it is not permitted to rest. He is never permitted to take rest. He is connected to Pozzo by a rope. A large portion of the dialogue is dedicated to giving Lucky various instructions. Pozzo is giving various instructions like stop, forward, back, and regardless of the abuse, though he has been abused in a very bad way, regardless of this abuse, Lucky remains totally subservient to Pozzo. Together they represent the antithesis of each other, yet they are strongly and irrecoverably tied together, both physically and mentally. They are, though we see that Pozzo is abusing Lucky, but still they are tied together by a strong knot. And what is the reason? Because Lucky wants to serve Pozzo. That's it. I'm bringing him to fair. We have seen also examples in the act-on that Pozzo wants to sell Lucky. Yes, Pozzo wants to sell Lucky in the market, and there is a sentence that I am bringing. See, I am bringing him to the fair, and where I hope to get a good price for him. So Pozzo wants to sell Lucky, but will he sell him? Will he be able to sell him? No, he cannot sell him because he is depending. A master always depends on the slave. Has to depend on the slave. Significance of the rope. The rope that is tied, that is surrounding Lucky's neck, has several significance also. Lucky wears a rope around his neck. Rope may be taken as a noose or less. Rope separates the two. Rope appears shorter in Act 2. The rope that was longer in the first act now becomes shorter in the second act. Why? We will see it later. Master slavery. Pozzo owns Lucky. Pozzo thinks that Lucky is my slave, so I have authority over him. Lucky is subject to the will of Pozzo, and Lucky is subject to the will of Pozzo. That means whatever Pozzo decides, Lucky has to perform accordingly. And according to other interpretation, Pozzo and Lucky, they're not only master and slave, they also symbolize the relationship between capital and labor, wealth and the artist, and there is also an autobiographical origin of the relationship. Some critics have found out a relationship of Pozzo with James Joyce and Lucky with Samuel Beckett. It is a well-known fact that in the initial stage of his literary career, Beckett was deeply attached to James Joyce and was almost like a disciple to him. So James Joyce was a kind of inspiration to Samuel Beckett, and he was just a disciple in his earlier days of his career. One of the critics tells us that Pozzo is no other than Godot himself, and another critic says that Pozzo is Godot himself. Pozzo has arrived on the stage in front of Vladimir and Estragon, and whom Vladimir and Estragon could not recognize. So Pozzo is Godot himself. According to this view, Godot is God, Pozzo is Godot, Pozzo is therefore God. And since Pozzo is nothing but a tyrant and a slave driver, so too is God. Pozzo is nothing but a tyrant. We see since his arrival, he is doing several kind of tyrannies over Lucky. So he is again a slave driver who is driving a slave with a rope. So he is God, the Almighty, who rules us. Another critic characterizes Pozzo as the god of God of Old Testament and it has also reference to the God of Old Testament of Act 2 becomes turns who is very much tyrant and omnipotent, turns out to be the God of New Testament, who is injured, who is helpless, and who has been crucified in Act 2, because we will see that Pozzo becomes blind. On the other extreme from this view is a king anti-Godot. Pozzo is anti-Godot. Okay, we'll discuss. Pozzo is again said, Pozzo and Lucky's relationship has again been said to be the relationship between body and intellect, master and the slave, capitalized and the proletariat, colonizer and the colonized, Cain and Abel, sadist and masochist, Joyce and Beckett, etc. There are several interpretations. Relationship of God and man. Lucky represents mankind. Lucky here represents mankind and is a subject to the will of Pozzo. Pozzo has this odd influence over Lucky. Pozzo thinks that he is God and Lucky represents the mankind. Is it slavery if anybody wants to or choose to be slave? Lucky is submissive to others. He could emancipate himself. In the Act 1, he is definitely a slave who is bound to follow the instructions of Pozzo, but in the Act 2 we see that he has become overpowerful and he could have emancipated himself, he could have ruled over the master, but still he chooses not to rule, because Lucky has free will and he chooses not to express it. Estragon asks, he never refuses. Pozzo replies, he refused once though. And the next interpretation is that it is possible to treat Pozzo and Lucky as representative of ordinary world. They also represent the two trams, Estragon and Vladimir. Pozzo and Lucky create a metaphor of the society. They represent the society that we live in. Pozzo appears to be all-powerful, where Pozzo represents the dominating class or the all-powerful society, people of the society, dominating the state by his gestures and his inflated language. By virtue of his capacity, he enjoys sensual delights and his wealth. He is a feudal lord who is self-consciously magnanimous in his disposal world, in contrast to the confusions of drums where everything is in flux. There is another way of approaching this crucius pair of characters, perhaps, is the portrait of Pozzo. Beckett has given a caricature of God, the absolute monarch. God in this play Beckett has represented as the absolute monarch. Pozzo is just a symbol of this establishment. Pozzo is representing, therefore, God, who is egoist, who is full of self-love, and who is always concerned about his dignity and who always rebukes others. Okay, so in Act 2, this omnipotent Pozzo turned out to a pig. Pozzo feels no pity for anyone. The master is blind now. He becomes blind, and the slave, Lucky, becomes dumb. The rope which links the two becomes shorter, symbolizing the increasing dependence of the master on the servant. He can no longer command rather than driving Lucky as he did earlier. Though Pozzo and Lucky represent an obvious sub-contrast, so Pozzo, the master, and Lucky, the slave, have obvious sub-contrasts. They are driven by a desperate attempt to live, one to live and other to rule. And so in the relationship between Pozzo and Lucky can be interpreted in several ways, but we can just compare the two relationships. Pozzo in Act 1 and Act 2, I prepared a comparison. See, this is it. The relationship is parasitic. Act 1A. In the Act 1, the relationship is parasitic. In the Act 2, the relationship is of mutual dependence. In the Act 1, Pozzo dominates the relationship. In the Act 2, Lucky needs Pozzo for emotional guidance. In the Act 1, Lucky is dependent on Pozzo for emotional direction. In the Act 2, Pozzo needs Lucky for physical guidance. So, though one is master, another is slave, they need each other to live on. And there is no point in ruling, there is no point in torturing, there is no point of being a tyrant. This is how the relationship between Pozzo and Lucky has been represented in the play The Waiting for Godot. and they just appear in between the play in the first act and second act. Before the end they disappears from the stage, and in the end of the play we again see Estragon and Vladimir are waiting for some Godot, and their waiting continues. Beckett has very well said, very has summed up his this idea of absurdism very significantly, that nothing happens, nobody comes, nobody goes. It's awful. Truly, it's awful. If you like my video, please share and subscribe my channel. Thank you for watching. It was for students only. Thank you.